I'm Inventor Dan Zen. Tonight we've got an update on ZIMjs. So that's an open source free library to help you code interactive media better that makes use of CreateJS, which makes use of JavaScript itself. And it's all for the HTML canvas. So we're not coding on the DOM, we're coding on the BOM, the bitmap object model. I did give a talk. Here's Zim. I'll just click and this should be, hopefully, yeah, this is it. This is the website, the Zim website. And if we just scroll down a little, you'll get an overview of the things that I've been doing. And down here, right there, that's the last talk back in April. So since April, I've set up a system to be able to learn Zim. It was a mobile app, done some socket stuff, a multi-user Parallax, this thing called Zim Bits. Launched Zim Duo, which is Zim 2, created tabs, worked with a new mobile app on pixel stuff, and a color picker, and then we're kind of now. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of those things now. They're all linked up here. Starting with a good place would be Zim Learn. I set up a workshop. I had a workshop in Hamilton and was teaching people how to code a game in JavaScript with no prior knowledge of coding in 3 hours. What do you think? Went all right. We got stuff on the screen moving about, some hit tests and some movement and stuff. It was pretty good. And so that's where I think Zim's come to. It's almost easy enough for anybody to read it and use it. So let's this will give you an overview of what Zim is as well, just as we take a peek into the Learn. First of all, the requirements are easy now. Wouldn't you agree? We need an editor and the web browser and a computer, and you're happy to go. This is the DOM. That's what people have been using in HTML traditionally, the tags in HTML. And then there's a bitmap object model that works on the canvas, which is one of the new tags now in HTML. And on the BOM, we have a stage and a container, and we can put shapes in it and text and move things around more freely. This makes use of CreateJS, which is also a free library. So all of this stuff is free, and it just takes one line of code, as you know, to bring in the JavaScript to be able to use these things. Here's a sample of HTML code with its div tag there, and controlling the div with document.getElementById, the tag .style.color. Isn't that fun? And then HTML tags and stuff like that around CSS. Here's an example of what working in CreateJS looks like, and in Zim. You say, hey, I want a new container. That's like a holder. That might be like your div. Add it to the stage. I want a new rectangle. Add it to the container. See, container.addChild rectangle. You can set its alpha, its cursor, and you can say, when you click on it, load a picture. And here's the function load picture, and that brings in a picture, a bitmap, and you can set its X and Y. You know, it's nice having X and Y, so we don't have to take the pixels off of the style and use left and all that kind of stuff, which is a pain in the neck. And then a stage.update. So that's an example of what coding in Zim to make assets looks like, and indeed in CreateJS. There's a template that I developed, and in doing so created a class called frame. So there it is right there, frame. And what you can pass to that is how you want to scale this thing. Do you want any scaling? Do you want it to fit inside your window? That kind of stuff. And how big you want your canvas to be. And you pass those things into the frame right here. And then the frame says it's ready, and you can start coding. So you would put your code in there. And that's now, that's abstracted about 100 lines of code to handle, you know, different browsers and all that kind of stuff in the scaling code. And because of that, Zim has become, as I mentioned in the very last statement of my last talk, Zim is a framework, you know, because it's got a frame around it. All the stuff is working there. I would call it a very light one. Frameworks are sometimes evil sounding. You know, oh man, I got to learn that. There is that aspect to it. So I'm still calling it a library of module or like modules. After that, after showing the template, we've got what object-oriented code is in general, nice and simple, a little bit about how we can make assets, and the programming basics. After the programming basics, we take a look at how to make things move, how to animate them, how to nest and tile, because that happens quite a lot. This was more for reference. We did it live. We didn't like read through it or anything. We just started building it. And then a small game. And the small game looks something like this. These things, it has sound too. They get bigger and bigger, and if they touch, like these guys have touched, then we have to stop the game. And so there, it took us 9 seconds, and we lost. So that was the small game that we made. There's a larger game, or a completer game, that more complete game that they can look at as well. That was Zim Learn. We did a workshop on it. Like I said, went pretty well. Moved on to Zim Bits. What Zim Bits are small bits of interactive media coding. And so it's sort of like little tutorials. There's 16 of them now. I hope to get to 64 within the year. So it started with 8. It's now 16. And it's things like, well, drawing shapes, how to get an inline canvas, animating things, responsive design. So they're all over the map. I decided these little bits of things shouldn't be necessarily from the beginning. They can be, in a sense, quite complicated. Responsive design stuff is pop-up windows, grids and guides, drag and dropping copies. So you can at any time view this, and there's dragging within bounds. Here's dragging a copy, so you can view the code and it tells you what's happening there. So it's all within the template again. We make a rectangle. We can set the bounds of where we want to drag, and then we say Zim drag rectangle within the bounds, that kind of stuff. As well, in each one, there's where can you go from here? This was the basics. What are some extra things you can do? Snapping to things, swiping, radio buttons, and damping and easing. So as well, I realized that people might remember what they looked like once they went in, but now they come here, and if there's 64 of them, they're going to, which one was that again? So I implemented this thing right here where you press that, and it just turns to screenshots of all of the little tutorials. So that's the kind of idea. Here's one on damping. So how to make damping work. Things. You can see that this is very much like what we were doing in Flash, which is cool. So that's Zim Bits. Zim Duo, version 2 of Zim. So I went through probably, 50 updates maybe of Zim throughout. Usually I would do an update every time I wanted to add a component or something like that. And then I was ready for version 2, and the neat thing about it is it's the same Zim, except you can pass parameters in 2 ways. So you can pass parameters traditionally, like this. One of the things in making components, you make a button, it's got a signature with almost 20 parameters. That's a lot of configuration that you can do for it. And so say you wanted, instead of the default rounded corners on the button, you wanted to do a square corner, you might have to put in a bunch of nulls before you get to where you specify what the corner is. So I introduced a second passing in a single object, configuration object, that you can choose any property name and provide the value like so. And that makes it easier to get to distant parameters. And I like that 2 ways of getting at it. Plus I wanted version 2. So the name Duo is kind of cool, and that's what I went with. We'll see an example of Duo being used inside here as we look through these things. So components. Components are something that we don't have on the HTML5 canvas. We barely have them in HTML. Thank you for these same checkboxes we've had since 1996. All right, at least we can style them now, so that's good. But still, we could use some more components. Remember, we were working in Flash, with accordions and trees and menus and stuff. It's like, well, anyway, on the canvas, we really don't have those. So what CreateJS brought us up to sort of basic Flash, like the bitmap object model or display list or whatever you want to call it. But when we code things, we know we need buttons, we need checkboxes, well, maybe. So there's a whole set of those, and we talked about that in the last talk. You can take a look at Zim. There's maybe a half dozen to a dozen components, and I've added a few more. So here's tabs. So that makes these little tab things, and if you hit the tab button, that works. And here's major tab up here. If we view the source, let's see, some tabs. Yeah, here's a tab. So Zim tabs, make new tabs, specify the size of the tabs. We're passing in the T, the A, the B. So an array of 4 labels. So that will make 4 tabs. Down below here, we've got some tabs. There's custom tabs as well, where we were providing a label, but also colors. So in its basic sense, it's just an object with a label, but you can also specify the colors and background colors, role colors for each tab as well. So that's how that component works. And then, of course, it provides an event when it changes, like a change event. One nice thing about the tabs is you don't have to treat them as tabs. As a matter of fact, you could just, if you wanted 2 buttons, quick buttons down at the bottom of your mobile app, just run tabs with 2 things on it, and instantly you've got 2 buttons that spaces them and all that kind of stuff, or more. Thought about calling it like a button list or something like that. But anyway, tabs are fine. Nice, huh? When I built this too, you see how colorful and simple all this kind of stuff is? It's nice, huh? I started feeling like I was the IKEA of code. You like that? Should I go with that brand? Zim, the IKEA of code. You know, kind of ready-made, nice and easy, colorful, simple. Yeah, assembly, yeah. Then there's a color picker. So I was working with this mobile app called Psychic Pixels. So I'm looking at a picture here, and you have to try and guess what it is. So I'll show you that at the end. But it was a lot of grid work and pixel drawing. And so I was sort of in the mood to make a color picker. So here's a color picker, and hit OK. That's a custom color picker where you pass in an array of colors. This one is the default one. So if you just say, give me a color picker, this is what you get. And you can pick a color and adjust the alpha on it and hit OK, and that kind of thing. All colors. So a couple more components, which are nice. These two go off offline. I'm not sure I trust the internet connection. I haven't really set it up, so I'll just tell you briefly about them. A while back, just about the time of the last talk, I launched Zim Socket, which sits outside of the modules as a multi-user system that sits on top of Socket.io and Node.js. I had a technique for applying multi-user that I did back in the Flash days with my Robin series, and I built a bunch of multi-user things in a very easy way without doing any server code. So I brought that into the JavaScript world and called it Zim Sockets. I made about like 5 or 6 apps on it over the last year or 2. And I'm making more. I have an art show coming up in Hamilton on collective control, which is all multiple people controlling the same thing, all socket-based stuff. So this one was just, if you want to control something from your mobile device, you want to control something on the screen here, that's just socket code. So I just did a demonstration of how you could do that. That's called Zim Remote. So you can, from your mobile device or whatever, you can drag things and they'll drag on the screen in a sense. You can change settings of colors and they'll change on the screen, on the remote screen. So you can take a look at the socket stuff if you want. The other thing that I did, this one over here is, we're talking just at the end here, we're going to be talking about the last mobile app I made with it. And it's waiting for sale, or waiting to be approved in the Apple Store at the moment. Lots of grid work, but also my first sort of launched mobile app with Zim. I had made another one that I decided not to launch. It was just a B2B thing, and I didn't have the market for it, and I didn't want to bother. But it went really well. I didn't have much animation in it, though, so it was a lot of testing to see how much we could do with this thing called Zim pages of how to do responsive design on the canvas, and worked very well. But this one, Psychic Pixels, required a bit more, some animations and some stuff like that, and there were some things that I needed to optimize for the library. So I presented, and you can read about it in the blog post. I've now been blogging at Zim. There's about a couple dozen blog articles about specific things like this. The optimization, I added a configuration, I guess, called Zim.optimize. And what that does is it doesn't update the stage ever. So it's kind of weird to use because you know how you got that slider and you look at the slider moving? Well, if you don't update the stage, the slider won't move when you use it. But the thing is, I found that even like 4 update stage, concurrent update stages, or a couple update stages at the same time on mobile were causing it to bog. So that's why CreateJS split it up. That's why they don't automatically update the stage all the time. So in the optimize setting, I took the updates out. So now, if you think about it, if I'm going to move a slider, I'm probably operating something that I'm already updating the stage on. So updating from the component as well as updating and what you're building with the component, it's 2 updates when we don't need it. So Optimize took that away. Also another thing was, what is activating the components? On mobile, there's a click, but a click seems to have a little bit of a built-in delay so that you can figure out if you're doing a swipe. All my components were working on clicks. So I took that out and I actually made all my components working on mouse down instead, and that's like instant right away. And if you do the setting like a action event, Zim.action event, you can then choose mouse down. Well, that's a default, or you can set it back to click if you want. So those were a couple things on optimization. Of course, there's caching and all that, but that's well documented right across the board on how to optimize for mobile. These were things specific to the Zim library that it was optimizing. So that was nice. Over here, over the holidays, I introduced a change to... hang on a second. Let me show you the other one first. I introduced a change to Parallax because my Parallax had... P word. My Parallax had been operating on mouse movement. And there seemed to be a common, like, fancy thing where we're doing parallax with the scroll bar, which I've done before a bit. But I had to adjust parallax to be able to handle the scroll bar or mouse, or indeed any type of scroller. So here it is. As we do the scroll bar here, there's an animation. So that's animation in Zim. And here's the mouse parallax, so that's the traditional mouse parallax. Rotating and then hitting the top. So that's the example that comes with the parallax class. And I've separated that out into its own class as well. The other one was a holiday card. And so that's me, inventor Dan Zen. And as we scroll, the little eye comes out and his mouth opens. Oh my! And it says, presents. And then they're actually presents. So if we press on the presents, you can do presents, and then you deliver them, whoosh, into the shrink ray. Do you like that? Whoosh. And then you send it off to your social media and continue on. Thanks for sharing, and Zim Parallax, and back up to the top. Whoosh, whoosh. Very fun to play with, of course. So there it is, that's Parallax. The last one is the mobile app called, it's not quite the pictures that were depicted, really depicted there. This one is called Psychic Pixels. The 2 pictures that were presented there was a comparison of the old way of doing it with just a normal hit test that deals with the color underneath a point. So those were other hit tests that Zim would do based on the CreateJS hit test. So there was hit test rect, hit test circle, hit test bounds, these kinds of things. Hit test bounds actually was a calculation. But anyway, I was finding that as I needed to do a lot of hit tests, as I was dragging the mouse around, here it looks something like this. I'll make a new one. When I drag the mouse around, it makes pixels. Well, that was bogging on mobile. It wasn't even totally fast on a computer. And I was sort of surprised at that, and I guess I just couldn't handle that many hit tests on points. So obviously the answer is to turn that into a calculation. And that's what I did. So I provided a Zim hit test grid. And so the Zim hit test grid just operates on calculations, and immediately everything just sped up on mobile, and it's just fine. So that's good. What Psychic Pixels does, I guess I've attempted a few, is you choose this. So if we hit play, it's sort of like, okay, well, sorry, we didn't really see what those were. There's a U, a 7, a square, a plus, a diamond, and a person. Okay, so are you ready? Which one do you think it's going to be? Well, square? Oh, it's a 7. So wrong. Which one do you think it'll be? B7. Oh, plus sign. You know, it's a little fun thing like that. What's nice though is you can go in. Oh, now we're playing that one. You can go in and edit and create your own things. And I found it's a lot of fun to do pixel drawings. This web version's a little bit off because I've adjusted it. You see when I press there? Do you see what happens? It presses the wrong pixel, doesn't it? That's because on mobile your finger's in the way, and I think it's helpful for people to kind of be able to see around their finger a slight bit. So that was user testing that led me to that. Anyway, it's fun making pixel pictures. You can tell I had fun. Look at my help screen. That's it, like a help screen done in pixel pictures. That is indicating that you can play as one person. So the top one is one person trying to guess at what's on the screen. And the bottom one is two people trying to guess. Like one person's trying to guess the other. So that's my help screen. Yeah, thank you, Dan Zen. Woohoo. That's it for the presentation, but what I would like to do, I sped through that very quickly because I want to talk a little bit about it. You guys have seen Zim a couple times now, so open it up to some thoughts or questions. And some water drinking. Give you a moment to have it in mind if you have anything. I know, I heard it. Thoughts? Have you used anything like this? Has anybody used CreateJS or Pixie or something for the canvas? Nobody? Are you at all interested in trying? Maybe. Are you so happy with the DOM that you think you got everything? Or are you scared? Like, how about it? Like, talk to your neighbor for a second, just a sec. Talk to your neighbor and say, I'll try the canvas, or I won't try the canvas. What are you going to say to your neighbor there? Matthew, what are you saying? You going to try it? Yeah? You guys going to try it? No? You're not going to try it. You are trying it. You've already tried it. Are you coding in anything? Like, don't you want to have... I mean, I'm sure you're having fun, but this stuff is extremely fun. It's quite easy to use. Or do you have your own libraries already? I'm really asking. I don't know. Like, how do you think I should get this to the world? Like, is it okay? Or is it a waste of time? Or what are your thoughts?
Oh, man.
Microphone's over to you. Are you shy? Waiting to be heckled or something. There's certainly, yeah, so Rick said that it's a tough question. How do you get something like this out there and adopted? I'm not too worried about that, really. I mean, it's really nice to have myself to be able to make this. I'm certainly trying to help people if they want to use it. These days, everybody's kind of got their own libraries or something. It's hard to say. Are you, does it look possible to use? Like, you saw a little bit of the code. Does it look possible? Does it seem too bloated? These kinds of things. What are your thoughts? Do you want to see more? How much time do we have?
We should probably cut it off.
Let's get one comment from the audience. Oh, am I too demanding? I might be too demanding. Well, okay, tell you what, why don't, if you wouldn't mind, just turn to your neighbor, seriously, I'm sure you can talk, turn to your neighbor and talk about it a little bit and see what you say. Let me hear you talk about it. You guys have mouths, just talk about it for a second.
I do. It's a really nice platform to learn. Yeah.
Don't talk to me. Talk to that guy.
Same, yeah. Yeah, like a lot of things. I bet you know you call it meat. You actually make these.
Is it?
I think you should try it. That looks like such a great platform. Yeah, I follow it. I do follow it. 100% chance of I honestly think it looks like a ton of fun. Like it looks like such JavaScript is scary, and this looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then dig in as you got it working and dig in after. But height wasn't all encompassing. That was sort of like more dynamic drawing. Matthew, you done any
Also the fact that I need
the benefit is the things that are inside the tabs are more like they can then be more freeform. So the problem is we're working in a freeform world, and then we're not able to manipulate like it's two different systems, which is sometimes a to have two different systems. Instead, I'm seeing how much can go all in one system.
Fine for jumping in day. Currently works at some employee distribution company. That's some really cool robots. I know, that's what you like.
Well, I know, and so am I, and I've been working through that as much as I can.
I'm not criticizing it. Because if you look at stuff I did, like hundreds of different stuff, the keyboard. It's 21. 21 was not thinking I got like a bachelor. 6 times in I started coding. And that's when I wrote initially dropped myself. I'm good. When I was 16, I was inspired. Like I look at my phone.
All right, well, I'll see if I can do some answering about that. There is a reason, and the reason is not purely to do the tabs on the canvas. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's a good one.
You just send me the correct
Well, there is just a different mode of handling things. Everything's properties right on the object. It's less divorced, which divorcing to style sheets and stuff like that is great. Some people don't want it that way. Some people would rather have their styles like right in. I mean, you can always program the styles in JavaScript if you want to, but I like objects. I like arrays. I like being able to loop through stuff and apply. Like I can make stuff that I can make stuff faster with code than I can with HTML and laying out. Right. For everything. Yeah.
What if I found her, Jeff?
It is nice to have it there and behind to occasionally do a manipulation if you want something like that. What were you going to say? There's student websites, I guess. There are applications. There's been a few, like somebody who wants to make puzzles with it.
I'll script you like
I showed how to make puzzles with well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That's it for the talk. Thank you very much. Yeah. Hope you all give it a try, or at least let somebody else know about it as well.
I honestly think it looks like a ton of fun. Like it looks like such an JavaScript is scary, and this looks like a lot of fun.